And I will get started. Welcome everyone, and thank you for bearing with us as we work on the technology. Back in May, we announced that Rochester was one of 4 U.S. sites participating in the phase 1 clinical trial for a COVID-19 vaccine being developed by Pfizer with a German biotech company. Just yesterday afternoon, the FDA approved a Pfizer vaccine for phase 3 trials. That's the final stage before FDA approval, mass production of the vaccine, and distribution. And 4 volunteers in Rochester yesterday became first in the U.S. to receive Pfizer's vaccine as part of this trial. You may also recall that earlier this month, WROC started recruiting for a different phase 3 study involving another promising vaccine that's being developed under the federal Operation Warp Speed initiative. That study is expected to start next month, giving Rochester an important role in the development of 2 coronavirus vaccines. We'll ask the media to help us promote 2 ways of participating in these studies through a website, www.covidresearch.urmc.edu, COVID research is all one word, or by calling 585-276-5212. We're joined via Zoom today by 2 leaders of the Pfizer study. Both are professors in the Infectious Diseases Division of the URMC Department of Medicine, and both also treat patients at Rochester Regional Health as part of the RRH Infectious Disease Unit. They are Dr. Ed Walsh, who's principal investigator for the Pfizer trial, and Dr. Ann Falsey, who in addition to this trial will also lead the Operation Warp Speed trial in her role as co-director of URMC's Vaccine and Treatment Evaluation Unit. I want to thank Suzanne for making sure we could have ASL interpretation today, and Morgan Underwood and Ron for providing the interpretation. Dr. Walsh, I'll ask if you want to make an opening statement, and then Patty Singer, you're going to be first up with the question.
Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity. As pointed out, we've just begun the initiation of the very large 30,000 subject phase 3 trial to try to determine if the messenger RNA vaccine that has been produced by Pfizer and BioNTech to see how that is protective in human trials against the coronavirus.
Thank you very much. And Patty, with that, I'll turn it to you for a question and a follow-up. And next up will be Dan Gross at WROC TV Channel 8.
Okay. First question is, people who have already signed up, do they need to sign up again, or do you have a queue of interested people you're just going to be going down to see if they qualify and are still interested?
Both, in fact, Patty. Individuals who we previously talked to and discussed this study with, but we are very vigorously reaching out to the larger Rochester community.
Of course, you probably can anticipate my follow-up with that. How are you doing that in order to get diversity and get everybody represented? Again, we've talked about disproportion in minority communities. How will you get them represented in this?
Right. Would you mind, Patty, if I pass this off to Ann to respond to?
So, Patty, that's a major concern of all the vaccines going forward, given the fact that minority communities are disproportionately affected. So we have been doing community outreach and doing community studios to understand what are the barriers and how to solve them. We have been reaching out to faith-based organizations. We have been consulting, again, with our leaders in the community to utilize different advertising strategies, different kinds of radio stations. So we are working very, very hard for that. Just to add to what Ed said about people in the queue, when we recruit for different phases, phase 1 has different requirements than phase 3. And so now, in addition to the people that have already signed up, we are specifically looking for folks that are at high risk by virtue of their circumstance or their occupation. So, people that are out there, bus drivers, barbers, waitresses, EMTs. So it's a slightly different recruiting strategy. So anybody who's interested is welcome to call or sign in.
Thanks, Patty. And next is Dan Gross from WROC TV Channel 8, and then Pat Musanek at Channel 10. We'll follow him. Dan? Dan, I think you're muted. All right, we'll come back to Dan. Pat Musanek, can you unmute yourself and ask a question?
Yes, I'm ready. How's everyone doing?
Great, thanks.
Alrighty. My question is, I know you can't give out names of the 4 individuals who were vaccinated, but could you tell us male, female, age range, anything like that?
Yes, yesterday's group of 4 individuals spanned an age range from 26 through age 74, and a variety of occupations, including teachers.
And when will their results be known? I know it takes some time.
It certainly does. Their specific results will not be known for quite a long time. Remember, this is an efficacy trial in which roughly 30,000 individuals will participate, half of whom will receive placebo, and half of which will receive the vaccine. And as we monitor illnesses through the next months and beyond, we will be able to assess whether the vaccine is preventing infection with coronavirus. And so as a group, we will determine the efficacy of this vaccine.
Thank you, Dr. Walsh.
Thanks, Pat. And I'm going to chat with Dan Gross to see if he wants to jump in here. Next on my list is Will Cleveland from the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle. Hi, Will.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Just fine.
Perfect. Just still getting the hang of all this Zooming, as I'm sure a lot of us are. So I was just curious, Dr. Falsey and Dr. Walsh, why is this such a big deal that Rochester is being put into the forefront like this? What sort of long-lasting impact or benefits will we see that Rochester is one of the hubs for this phase 3 study?
Well, I'll start. I think it comes with a long history of the University of Rochester leading vaccine studies, many of which have come to licensure and prevented some very serious diseases. And so we feel very privileged to be at the forefront here. I think it's of great benefit to our community to participate in these trials. I think it's helpful for people to have some control and to feel like they can move the science along. And so by participating in a trial, they're doing just that. We hear from some of our older volunteers that the polio pioneers came before them. So this is their way to give back and to get everybody out of their houses sooner rather than later. And then, as a practical measure, the folks that get the placebo really should move to the head of the line when the vaccines become available.
And Will, did you have a follow-up question?
I don't. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I saw Mary McCombs from Spectrum News on, and after that, we'll have Brett Dahlberg from WXXI. Mary?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, great. With a rush and so many people racing to come up with a vaccine, and the urgency with all of this, once there is one, I mean, there are billions of people that have to be vaccinated. So is it safe to say that there's no one winner in this race, I guess? Just one winner isn't going to cut it. So I guess I'm just curious, with all the other companies looking to do the same thing.
Well, you raise a very important point. I think this is an unprecedented situation where a single disease has had so many promising vaccines entering late phase 2 and phase 3 trials simultaneously or nearly simultaneously, all attempting to achieve the same goal. Many of these vaccines that are in these trials are capable of inducing an immune response that are quite similar to each other. And it's quite possible, if not perhaps likely, that if one of these vaccines is effective, the others will be as well. This would provide a real benefit then to the ability to distribute vaccines throughout not just the country, but the world. So I think this is it's a bit complicated, but it also results in a real opportunity in this particular situation.
And do you have a follow-up, Mary?
No, I think that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'll invite, if anyone from WHEC Channel 10 or 13 WHAM TV, there's a reporter who wants to ask a question, please let me know via chat. And with that, I will ask Brett Dahlberg at WXXI News if he's got a question.
Hi all, thanks for taking this time. I wonder about the instructions that you're giving to participants about their behavior, because it seems like there's a balance where on the one hand, you almost want them to be exposed to the novel coronavirus so you know if the vaccine works. And on the other hand, you don't want them exposed because that could be dangerous. So what instructions do you give about behavior and how do we balance those interests?
So, that's fairly easy. We are advising people to be as safe as possible, to use social distancing, to continue to wear masks. But again, there are some people that are more at risk than others just because they're out in the public every day. So we advise people to stay safe and practice with social distancing.
And do you have a follow-up?
I do, yeah. Can you tell me where are we in the trial now? We're at phase 3 out of what? What does it mean to be in phase 3 and what happened in phase 2 that got us to phase 3?
So that's a great question. Phase 1 is where we do small groups of healthy people to do safety and immunogenicity and select the vaccine candidate. Phase 2 is where you select the vaccine candidate and the dose, and you move into larger groups of people and you start accepting more in the way of underlying diseases. And phase 3 is when you pretty much take all comers and you test for the efficacy. This is actually a phase 2/3. So the first several thousand people in this vaccine study will have extra safety scrutiny and testing. So it's sort of a fluid situation.
All right, thank you, Brett. We're doing fine on time here, so I'll ask, and I apologize to Pat Mucinak. I meant Channel 8, where I see Dan Gross on our display, but I wanted to invite him to ask a question on behalf of Channel 8 or 13 WHAM. any reporter has a follow-up question, or my colleague Veronica Chiesi-Brown at Rochester Regional wants to say anything, please just hop on.
Just real quick, a clarification. 4 volunteers were given a dose. Was this yesterday? I just wanted some clarification on the number of volunteers and what happened with that, or was that from May?
No, these were, so the subjects who were involved in the phase 1 study are continuing in that study. We will follow them for up to 2 years. This is a new group of individuals. These 4 individuals were volunteers who came after the phase 1 was completed. And we will continue to enroll into the phase 2-3 study at this point.
And Dr.
Okay,
Walsh, those 4 were dosed yesterday afternoon.
That's correct.
And they're specifically now in the phase 2-3 study, which is moving forward. And additional people have been dosed today.
How many?
Well, thus far today, 7 additional, and there will be 4 more at the end of this phone discussion.
Hey everybody, it's Veronica. I have photos of some of the dosage this morning, so I can send them along to you. Either I will or Mark will, just so you have those for B-roll. I'm working on the actual video, but for now I'll have pictures.
Thanks, Veronica. This is Brett at WXXI. Can I just ask 2 kind of quick questions here?
Sure, Brett.
One, how do we know that these 4 were the first 4 in the country to be dosed? And then 2, if someone can just kind of describe to us what this vaccine is and how, if it works, how it would work, what it does in our bodies, that'd be great.
Sure. The answer to the first question is that we were the only site to begin yesterday. Today, there are 3 sites, NYU, the University of Cincinnati, and ourselves. So we were able to begin yesterday evening or late yesterday afternoon. So that's how we know that. With regard to the vaccine, the concept of a messenger RNA vaccine is that rather than inject a protein that is produced in the laboratory into your arm to induce an immune response, we instead inject a messenger RNA. And this is basically an instruction manual, essentially, for cells, your own cells, to produce that same protein. And the relevance of that is that the structure of that protein, as it is produced by your cells, mimics identically the protein structure that the virus produces when it infects you. This does not cause an infection, this vaccination, because it is only a single protein. Most viruses are composed of up to 10 to 20 proteins. And so this is a single protein. And this allows the immune system to recognize the authentic viral protein and its exact structure, which is what the immune system needs in order to develop the proper antibodies to neutralize that virus.
And before we go, Patty Singer, I think you wanted to ask a follow-up question?
Yeah, I did. Is there any way of knowing how successful outreach has been to the Black and Latino communities? Can you quantify, what the response has been?
I'll discuss this. So our early efforts were our usual ways of contacting people. And we are looking at, we did ask for a racial and ethnic categories and people that are calling in or putting into the landing page. And, it's modest. And so our community outreach with our different faith-based groups and with the studios and the different leaders, it does take some time. And, so taking time to build trust when you're working at sort of light speed, warp speed, it is definitely a challenge. In addition to local efforts, the co-VPN, and that is the NIH network that is helping to oversee these trials, is beginning national media campaigns using not only some celebrities and some athletes to help perhaps invite people into these trials, but also working with different groups to increase minority involvement. So, I'd say it's been modest. We're not quite at the level of, at least the current representation of Black and Latino people in Rochester, but we're close. But given the disproportionate effect of the pandemic, we definitely would like to see more volunteers.
Do you have a target or a percentage that you are going for, or numbers, percentage, anything like that, Ann?
So I would think that, the minimal target is the population of Monroe County. And I can't give you the exact numbers. I've looked at them before, but we want at least a representation of Rochester. If we could get 20% African American or Latinx, it would be really great.
Thanks, Patty. We're running up on 2 o'clock, and I know it's a busy news day with the Kodak announcement. So I will wrap up by thanking Dr. Ed Walsh and Dr. Ann Falsey for sharing information about the Phase 3 trial today. My colleagues Mark Michaud and Suzanne Palo at URMC and Veronica Chiesi-Brown at Rochester Regional for doing all the legwork on this announcement, and Morgan and Ron for providing ASL interpretation. And with that, Suzanne, I'll turn it back over to you to end the meeting.